Hey, DM Dango here with another review from the DM's Guild. This time we're looking at Faiths of the Forgotten Realms. If you've ever wondered what it was like to be a clergy member of the House of Cyric, or perhaps the holidays of Moradin, this supplement might be for you. So, Faiths of the Forgotten Realms. What are you getting in this 200-page supplement by Alex Klippinger, Micah Watt, and Scott Bean? You're not getting the history and lore of the gods of the Forgotten Realms. Let's just clear that out of the way first. What you are getting is how the faiths represent on an individual level. Now, what do I mean by that? What do I mean by, how do you represent faith? Well, a faith is represented by a couple of factors, and from an external perspective, it can be very easy to kind of dumb it down to very simple things. But primarily here, what I'm talking about is what are the sacred sites to that faith? Things like Mecca, things like Jerusalem, and things of those nature in the real world. Well, they have Faerun equivalents. There are holy cities, holy sites, and holy artifacts that are unique to each of the faiths. In addition to that, you have holidays. So in the real world, you have things like Ramadan, Passover, and Christmas. In Faerun, you might have things like, for instance, the Feast of the Moon. Green grass is a very important holiday for a number of religions in Faerun. And it gives you kind of that information as to why something might be happening in a specific town at a specific time. The calendar becomes more important. It becomes more real. It grounds the world that you're trying to create in longer campaigns. It's like, well, green grass is coming up, everyone. We need to be prepared for it. Well, what's green grass? Oh, you don't know. And some of your players will know this, or their characters will, but not necessarily ever kind of bring it up. It gives more roleplay potential opportunity to those classes. Now, in addition to that, in the base part of the very first section, you have background story options. How did that character become part of that faith? What actions led up to it? Things like assassins paying homages to Baal and introducing you to the faith's teachings. Or more simple, more benign things. Maybe benevolent caretakers took you in and raised you as a clergy member at a young age. It is kind of more of a generic one. But each of them have these kind of nice story hooks to bring you in. Now, following on from that, each of the gods also carries with it a subclass to go along with it, to give it some extra flavor and some kind of uniqueness to their own holy warriors in the world, their holy adventurers. So, like, how does that faith represent and manifest? So there are a number of clerics, of course, if you surmise, but there are also paladins and a few rangers and some druids as well in there, because some of the more nature-based gods would have, rather than a cleric to represent them in the world, they might have a druid or a ranger. There are also unique spells for some of the gods. There is some overlap here. For instance, if you have an order-based god and you have another order-based god, you might see a lot of overlap, but not all of that. So they're all each unique in of themselves, which is really nice to see. So that's kind of gives you a good overview of what you're getting. So to go through it quickly, you're getting the minutiae of the faiths themselves. So you're getting things like background story options, faith, how that faith is represented in terms of holidays, how that faith is represented in terms of holy sites, what that faith kind of represents in terms of how it manifests in the real world. Things like, well, if you serve Shantia, you're a nature person, you worship the harvest, that kind of thing. You're also getting a bunch of subclasses to go along with those gods, and you're getting a bunch of spells as well. So 200 pages of a plethora of content for you to divulge over if you are a class that kind of, or thinking about being a cleric, a paladin, or even a ranger or druid. What did I like about this? Well, I liked a lot about it. There is so much here. There is so much to go over, and it's like a lore document in terms of how it's laid out and what you're trying to look for. It gives a good grounding in world building, kind of helping you to understand what you might need, even if you are not looking at the Faerun gods or any of the Forgotten Realms, it gives you a good understanding of kind of how faiths are represented. It gives you a good amount of like kind of research material to kind of say, well, if I want to create my own god as part of this or my own pantheon, what do they do to the world? Gods in the worlds of Forgotten Realms and D&D in general have a more hands-on approach. A holiday to one of these gods is going to have real effects. Or maybe not worshiping this god will have detrimental effects. It's a rather interesting kind of thing if you think about the parallels between our real life religions. So I liked also a lot of the subclasses. They feel unique, interesting, and different in of their own right, and they feel different enough from the clerics that are represented in the main Wizards of the Coast material that I feel like you can bring a lot with them. Yes, they're still clerics and paladins and rangers and druids at heart, so they still have those same base mechanics, but they feel unique enough to kind of give you a lot more roleplay opportunities rather than just being a cleric, a forge cleric, or for instance, if you were a paladin of Oath of the Ancients. Well, an Oath of the Ancients is one thing, but to be serving a specific god as part of that, as a holy warrior of, for instance, Chantea, rather than just the Oath of the Ancients, it gives you so much more. And you can use the calendar to track the holidays and say, well, this holiday is coming up. Does anyone want to do anything in the game? I say, well, my paladin needs to observe that. And great storytelling comes as a part and parcel of that. I really liked a lot of the interesting and unique spells as well. There was so much here, and I could spend hours talking about each one, but I don't want to. I don't want to kind of bombard you with information. I want you to go out and get this for yourself. If you're ever interested as a DM in kind of making, and you're kind of in the Forgotten Realms, and if you're interested in making the world more realistic and more grounded, holidays help with that a lot. The passage of time helps a lot. Understanding what happens after a certain amount of months and saying, well, this holiday is coming up as part of that, these NPCs celebrate it, gives more realism. And more realism allows for players to feel like the world is more grounded and feels more realistic, more like, oh, this is a place I could go to. This is a place I could travel. What didn't I like about this? What did I find difficult or odd or confusing? There's a lot here. There's a lot to go through, and there's a lot to kind of digest and work out and everything else. At first, I thought, I think there is a little bit of a disconnect, and I think some people will buy this expecting it to be something it's not. I think some people will buy it expecting it to be a lore document on the history of the deities of the Forgotten Realms. And I don't think that's fair to the author, to be fair, that criticism, but I think that might happen a few times. Now, the other thing that I can't really say much else that I didn't like. I really felt it was really well put together. There's a lot of art here to kind of give you a good understanding of kind of what the holy symbols might look like. The first section, which can kind of list all the gods and kind of goes through and talks about their holy sites and their holy symbols. It would have been nice to see more art in that section and less of a wall of text that you kind of represented with. Once you start getting into the kind of the subclasses and that, then the art starts coming thick and fast. You get lots and lots and lots of things for you to look at, lots of things to kind of break up that kind of reading and kind of get you into the kind of habit of seeing, well, this is what a cleric of Saloon looks like, or this is what the holy symbol of Baal is. But it would have been nice to have those holy symbols earlier on and to more break up the very, very long wall of text at the beginning. Finally, what did I think about the overall package? What do I give it for my rating? Now, this is a very hard and difficult thing to rate. It's not anything that I've seen before. There isn't a good equivalent. I could rate it on the subclasses presented and everything that they contain. That's not really fair because it's not just the subclasses. Well, the subclasses do take up a large section of it. They don't take up the whole thing. And it's not the main thrust of the document. I could rate it on the spells, but that's not fair either, and they don't take up a large enough percentage. I could rate it on the very beginning section, the minutiae of the faiths, their holy sites, their holidays, that information. Well, I can't really do that either, so it's very difficult to kind of come to a good rating. But everything presented here is really interesting, really unique, and very well put together and placed. My criticisms are minor. They mostly have to do with trying to have less walls of text, more imagery peppered without, and putting a symbol or some kind of image to each god as early on as possible. So for that reason and those small detractions, I give it, it's like a 4.9, a 4.8. But in reality, I'm going to give it a 5 on the DM's Guild. It definitely deserves a place of honor among other things of similar quality. It's very hard. I don't think I've ever run into anything quite like this offering. So it doesn't have a good comparison for me to draw. But everything on offer, I really like. I really like the focus on a very specific section of D&D classes, the divine spellcasters. Now there are multiple ones, but it's nice to see that kind of love and attention drawn to kind of this group of people. Religion has an incredible impact on both our world and Faerun. And, I shouldn't use Faerun. I should use the Forgotten Realms because it's the more accepted nomenclature. But so faith has an enormous impact on the Forgotten Realms. So it's nice to have a document to explain how that faith impacts people who aren't calling on the help of the gods, who aren't constantly, curing wounds with the magic of the gods, but rather just doing their day-to-day and worshiping. So, thank you for your time. Please do remember to like, comment, and subscribe on this video. And thank you. Peace out.